Equals London, September 1st, 1939. As the sun slipped beneath the horizon, the city dimmed, not by nature, but by decree. Lamps vanished behind thick curtains. Streetlights snuffed out like dying fireflies. Thomas Eddington adjusted his ARP armband and stared down the narrow row of terraced houses. The silence unnerved him. Only the hollow echo of his boots broke through the night. The war, still distant in headlines, now pressed against his doorstep. Somewhere a door creaked open, and a nervous voice whispered, "Is it true, Mr. Eddington? They say the bombers could come tonight." He smiled faintly. "That's what the blackout's for. Keep your lights low, Mrs. Parson. Every glimmer could guide them in." Above them, the sky hung like an ocean of black ink, filled with the weight of what was coming.
Eddington's whistle rested cold against his chest as he moved through the narrow alleyways of Lambeth. The air smelled of damp coal and fear. "Put that light out!" he called to a boy fumbling with a candle near a window. The lad muttered an apology, and the small flame vanished, leaving shadow to reclaim its rule. Each window was a potential beacon, each careless moment a threat. The city had become a fortress of darkness by necessity, its citizens untrained soldiers in a silent defense. In the distance, the faint rumble of trains echoed, carrying men and munitions toward uncertain futures. Thomas paused beside a shop front painted with crude black paint. His reflection vanished with the glass. He thought of his son, George, barely 12, already collecting tin for the wardens. "We fight in shadows now," he murmured to himself, "so the sky might stay empty."
A low fog crept along the Thames, swallowing shapes and sound. Thomas met fellow wardens by the river's edge, their lamps unseen beneath covered hoods. "They say the Germans crossed into Poland this morning," one of them whispered. The news hit like a cold wind. The war, once a threat, had begun. Yet London remained eerily calm, holding its breath in the black. A faint gramophone played in a nearby flat, its music cut short by an anxious hand. "People still don't understand," Thomas said quietly. "Darkness can save us now." Overhead, a siren was tested briefly, its wail splitting the night before dying away. The wardens looked at one another. No planes yet, but the sound carried a terrible promise. In that shrouded river air, the city learned what fear of the sky truly meant.
By the second night, Thomas knew the weaknesses by heart. A crack of light leaking through ill-fitted curtains, a careless driver forgetting his headlamps, a pub door left ajar. Each one glowed like a warning against the dark canvas of war. He tapped on doors softly but firmly, correcting, reminding, teaching. "Even one light could mark a target," he said, his words carrying the weight of new authority. Children giggled nervously behind the darkened glass, finding adventure in the mystery. But their mothers' faces told another story, exhaustion mixed with dread. The blackout was more than policy. It was transformation. Londoners were becoming creatures of patience and fear. When Thomas finally returned home, even the comforting sight of his living room lamp was gone. His wife, Alice, sat in candlelight, face half hidden. "Feels like we're vanishing," she whispered.
September 3rd arrived with a heavy broadcast. Thomas stood among neighbors huddled around a wireless set as Prime Minister Chamberlain's solemn voice filled the silence. Britain was at war with Germany. A gasp rippled through the small crowd. Someone began to cry quietly. "It's begun," whispered Alice, clutching his sleeve. The darkness that once felt precautionary now felt prophetic. Thomas tightened his ARP armband and looked to the horizon, though there was nothing to see. That night, the blackout seemed deeper than ever, as though the city itself wished to hide from history's turning page. Somewhere in the distance, Big Ben struck the hour, each chime echoing like a farewell to peace. "We'll keep watch," Thomas murmured. "If the bombs come, we'll be ready."
Equals, as days passed, the expected raids did not come. Instead, the blackout became part of life, an enforced ritual of shadows. Children carried makeshift lanterns made from tin cans, their laughter echoing in quiet defiance. Thomas patrolled still, though his steps felt heavier. He overheard rumors. Some said the war would end before Christmas. Others whispered of new horrors across Europe. Yet London remained draped in its nightly veil. "It's strange," said Alice one foggy evening, "how peaceful disaster can look." They stood together at the window, unable to see even the end of their street. The city breathed softly, muffled by fear and discipline. In the distance, the faint toll of a church bell drifted through the dark, a fragile note of reassurance that life, for now, continued.
Equals. The first full siren came without warning, a long, rising cry that tore through the midnight quiet like an iron blade. Thomas leapt from bed, pulling on his coat before the echo faded. Outside, people stumbled into shelters, clutching children and blankets. Somewhere, a baby wailed. The wardens assembled swiftly, scanning the sky, but no planes appeared, only stars, briefly visible above the smoke haze. The all-clear sounded an hour later, leaving the neighborhood trembling. Was it real? Someone asked. Thomas shook his head. A test or a mistake, but next time. He didn't finish the thought. The night felt colder after that, every star seeming sharper, closer. The illusion of safety had been broken. Fear had found a voice, long and mechanical, echoing through the bones of London.
Equals Thomas found himself cherishing the smallest lights, the ember of a pipe, the glow from his wife's kettle, the spark of laughter shared between neighbors. Blackout or no, London's spirit refused to dim. He began organizing evening checks with gentler words, turning enforcement into camaraderie. They were guarding more than a city. They were guarding one another. One night, at the top of Lambeth Bridge, he looked down upon the Thames, invisible in its dark shroud, and realized how unified the city had become beneath the veil. "All this darkness," he said quietly, "and yet London still shines somewhere inside." The thought steadied him. Somewhere beyond the clouds, war raged unseen, but below, humanity endured, candle by candle, heart by heart. Equals. By October, rumors grew of raids over France. The blackout became muscle memory. Families learned to navigate rooms by touch, to cook and comfort in shadows. Thomas walked with quiet resolve under moonless skies, his lantern shielded. Each passing night was a victory. One more day the bombers had not come. Sometimes, he told young George during a late patrol, courage isn't about fighting. It's about waiting in the dark and not losing yourself. The boy nodded, gripping his father's hand tighter. Above them stretched the unbroken vault of night, vast and unfeeling, yet somehow protective. London's streets whispered with life unseen, but profoundly present. A quiet defiance stitched into every breath, every step, every flicker carefully concealed. Equals. As autumn deepened, London adapted to living unseen. The blackout had reshaped everything. How people spoke, moved, even dreamed. Thomas stood at his post one final evening before dawn, the horizon bleaching faint gray, marking another night survived. We've become ghosts, he thought, ghosts guarding the living.
Yet he smiled. From hidden windows came the scent of morning tea, the muted hum of life resuming. They had faced the darkness and found strength in it. The bombs had yet to fall, but London was already tested, and it had not broken. When the sun finally pierced the veil, its first rays touched the city like a promise that even in war's shadow, the human spirit would never truly dim.